Time-lapse experiment time. Experiment time-lapse time? Today we're going to look at how hydration affects your starter. Hi, I'm Sune and I'm a food geek. Today we're going to look at how hydration affects the growth of your starter. I'll build 5 different starters with 50%, 75%, 100%, which is the control, 125% and 150% hydration. And we'll see how it grows after being fed. If you're new to this channel, I bake a lot of sourdough bread and I make delicious food from all over the world. I'm on a quest to get the most out of every ingredient, and my goal is to teach you how to do that in simple and understandable steps. So join me by subscribing and ringing the bell so you won't miss any future videos. The starters will all be the same total weight, so they can be compared visually. The ratio of starter to flour is the same, although the weight of the starter and flour will be different for each hydration. You can see the amount of grams used for each starter in the description. These were the words. This is the experiment.
So we're about ready to start the experiment. As you can see, all the starters have been mixed. Each weighs 250 grams and fills up the glass to about the same height regardless of the hydration. The flour used is a bread flour with 12.5% protein from a local mill here in Denmark called Kornby Mølle. Absolutely wonderful flour to work with and amazing taste. I highly recommend it. The textures of each were quite different. The 50% hydration required a lot of kneading to incorporate all of the flour. In the end, it seems like a regular yeasted dough. The 100% hydration is sort of a paste-like consistency, and the 150% is totally fluid like a pancake batter. The ambient temperature of the room is 21 degrees Celsius, about 70 degrees Fahrenheit all the way through the time lapse, and the flour and water that was mixed in is room temperature. Well, let's start the time lapse. Well, that's interesting. We should keep in mind that I'm using 100% bread flour. Had I used part whole grain or 100% whole grain, it would probably look different. But the growth of the 50, the 75, and 100% hydration starters looks exactly the same. They grew to just around 3 times the original mixed size. The 125% and 150% grew quite a bit too, but I think the extreme hydration made it so that the gluten structure just couldn't support it growing any higher, so it just stopped. This shows you why it might be interesting to put in some whole grain into your bread. 10 to 30% will provide some extra structure to your bread, and it also tastes great. After I stopped the camera, I had a whiff of each of the 5 starters, but there was no discernible difference in the acidity on the smell, which is interesting because I've heard many times to use a low hydration starter to make sweeter breads. I think I'll make another time lapse later where we'll see what happens if the flour is only whole grain. I'm not sure it's even possible to make a 50% hydration starter with a super thirsty whole grain, but let's see. Well, that's an experiment for another day. I hope you learned something today. See you next time.